First Annual Grammy Awards Ceremony, May 4, 1959, Beverly Hilton Hotel, Los Angeles. Nat King Cole sat at his table in formal attire. He'd been nominated in multiple categories: Album of the Year for St. Louis Blues, Best Vocal Performance Male, Best Performance by a Top 40 Artist. He was one of the biggest recording artists in America. Multiple hit records, massive sales, cultural impact that transcended music. By any measure, he deserved recognition. The Album of the Year category was announced. The nominees were read: St. Louis Blues by Nat King Cole. The competition included the music from Peter Gunn by Henry Mancini, Come Dance With Me by Frank Sinatra, and Exotica by Martin Denny. The winner, Henry Mancini, for the music from Peter Gunn. Nat applauded politely, professional, gracious. Showing no disappointment publicly. Next category, Best Vocal Performance Male. Nat was nominated again. The competition included Frank Sinatra, Perry Como, Bing Crosby. The winner, Frank Sinatra, for Come Dance With Me. Nat applauded again, still professional, still gracious. He went home that night without a Grammy, despite being nominated in multiple categories, despite being one of the most successful artists of the year. This would become a pattern. Before we dive into how Nat King Cole was nominated for competitive Grammy Awards 5 times between 1959 and 1964, but never won a single one, always losing to white artists with lower sales and less cultural impact, and how his first Grammy finally came in 1990, 25 years after his death, when he couldn't accept it or give a speech or experience the recognition he deserved. While alive, let me ask, where are you watching from? Drop a comment, because this story about awards bias and posthumous recognition is as relevant in 2026 as it was in the 1960s. The Grammy Awards were established in 1958, first ceremony held in 1959. The Recording Academy created them to recognize achievement in the recording industry. Nat King Cole was immediately among the nominees. His commercial success and artistic excellence made him impossible to ignore, but there's a difference between nomination and winning. Nominations acknowledge you can't be excluded entirely. You're too visible, too successful, too obvious. But awards can go to someone else, and they did, consistently. 1961 Grammy Awards. Nat was nominated for Album of the Year for Wild Is Love. The competition included The Button-Down Mind of Bob Newhart by Bob Newhart, Nice and Easy by Frank Sinatra, and Sketches of Spain by Miles Davis. The winner, Bob Newhart, for The Button-Down Mind of Bob Newhart, a comedy album, Bob Newhart's debut. It was commercially successful, culturally significant in its own way, but it beat Nat King Cole for Album of the Year. Nat's album represented years of refined vocal artistry, sophisticated arrangements, emotional depth, musical excellence that had influenced an entire generation of performers. Bob Newhart's album was stand-up comedy routines. Funny, yes, well executed, certainly. But Album of the Year, the Recording Academy thought so. Nat wasn't in attendance that year. Maybe he'd learned from 1959 that nominations didn't translate to wins. Maybe he was touring. Maybe he just didn't want to sit through another ceremony where he'd be nominated and overlooked. 1962 Grammy Awards. Nat was nominated again, Best Vocal Performance Male, for his album The Touch of Your Lips. The competition included Tony Bennett, Jack Jones, Andy Williams. The winner, Tony Bennett, for I Left My Heart in San Francisco. Bennett's song was iconic. It became a standard, but Nat King Cole had been creating standards for over a decade. Unforgettable, Mona Lisa, Nature Boy. Too Young, the pattern was becoming clear. Nat would be nominated. The Recording Academy would acknowledge his work couldn't be completely ignored. Then the award would go to a white artist. Sometimes the white artist had impressive work. Sometimes, like the Bob Newhart comedy album, it was more questionable. But regardless of quality, the result was the same. Nat, nominated, white artist. Winner, 1964 Grammy Awards. Nat's final nomination while alive, Best Vocal Performance Male. The competition included Jack Jones, Al Martino, Frank Sinatra. The winner, Jack Jones, for Wives and Lovers. Jack Jones, a good singer, commercial success, but his cultural impact compared to Nat King Cole's, there was no comparison. Nat had transformed popular music, crossed racial boundaries in ways few black artists had managed, created a body of work that would influence artists for generations. Jack Jones won a Grammy in 1964. Nat King Cole didn't. That was Nat's last nomination before his death. 5 nominations between 1959 and 1964. 0 wins. He died February 15, 1965. lung cancer, age 45. He never won a competitive Grammy Award during his lifetime. Never got to accept an award from his industry peers. Never. Gave an acceptance speech, never had that moment of recognition. The Recording Academy had nominated him, acknowledged he was too important to ignore, then given the awards to white artists 5 times. The sales numbers tell a different story than the Grammy results. In the early 1960s, Nat King Cole was outselling most of the artists who won Grammys instead of him. Magic of Nat King Cole album, which wasn't even nominated, sold better than Bob Newhart's comedy album that won Album of the Year. Nat's singles were charting higher, staying on charts longer, generating more revenue than many Grammy winners. But commercial success didn't translate to Grammy wins. Neither did critical acclaim, neither did cultural impact. What did translate to Grammy wins? Being white helped considerably. This wasn't just Nat's experience. Other black artists in the early Grammy years faced similar patterns. Nominated but not winning, acknowledged but not awarded. The Recording Academy would point to exceptions. Ray Charles won Grammys, Count Basie won, Duke Ellington eventually won. But the pattern was undeniable when you looked at the numbers. Black artists were underrepresented among winners relative to their nominations. And when they did win, it was often in segregated categories, R&B categories created to separate black music from mainstream recognition. Nat King Cole didn't record R&B, he recorded pop standards, American songbook material. He competed directly with white artists for the same audience, the same airplay, the same mainstream recognition. And in Grammy competitions with those white artists he lost. Every time, Maria Cole attended some of those ceremonies with Nat. She saw the nominations, she saw the losses, she understood what was happening. They couldn't ignore him completely, she later recalled. He was too successful, too visible, so they nominated him. That was safe, that was acknowledgement without consequence. But actually giving him the award, that would have meant treating him as equal to white artists in his category, and they weren't ready for that. The nomination itself became a kind of substitute for recognition. Look, we nominated Nat King Cole, we acknowledged his work, as if nomination was sufficient, as if it was equivalent to winning, but it wasn't. Nomination and winning are different. One is acknowledgement, the other is validation. Nat got acknowledgement. White artists with comparable or lesser achievements got validation. After Nat's death in 1965, his music continued to sell. Unforgettable became more beloved with time. His albums remained in print. New generations discovered his work, but no Grammy Awards. The Recording Academy moved on to new artists, new categories, new competitions. Then in 1990, 25 years after Nat's death, the Recording Academy announced he would receive the Grammy Lifetime Achievement Award, a non-competitive honor given by special committee to honor artists whose contributions extend beyond a single year, often given posthumously. Nat King Cole received his first Grammy in 1990. He'd been dead for a quarter century. The award was accepted by Natalie Cole at the ceremony, who gave a speech honoring her father and thanking the Recording Academy. But Nat wasn't there, couldn't accept his own award, couldn't give his own speech, couldn't experience the recognition. The Recording Academy gave him a Grammy when it was safe, symbolic, cost nothing, when he couldn't benefit. Not when alive and competing, not when winning might have validated his work against white contemporaries, not when recognition would have meant something professionally. 25 years later, posthumously, safely. The Lifetime Achievement Award is meaningful and honors significant contributions, but timing matters. Giving it to someone repeatedly passed over for competitive awards during their lifetime, then honoring them posthumously, sends a message. We can acknowledge your greatness now that you're gone, now that it doesn't threaten hierarchies, now that it's historical rather than contemporary. Natalie Cole's acceptance speech was gracious. She honored her father's memory, expressed gratitude for the recognition, but she also understood the contradiction. Her father had deserved Grammy recognition while alive. The nominations proved the Recording Academy knew his work was excellent. The losses proved something else was determining outcomes. In 1991, Natalie released Unforgettable. With Love, an album of her father's songs. Using technology, she created a duet with Nat on the title track Unforgettable, singing alongside his original recording. The album won Album of the Year at the 1992 Grammys. The Unforgettable duet won Record of the Year. Natalie Cole won the Grammy her father never received, singing his song with his voice on the track. The Recording Academy gave Nat King Cole's Music Album of the Year in 1992, 27 years after his death, with his daughter singing. The irony was profound. The Recording Academy wouldn't honor with competitive awards when Nat created it finally won when his daughter re-recorded it. Did the music change? No. Did Nat's vocal performance on Unforgettable become better between 1951 and 1991? No. What changed was who was alive to accept the award and when the Academy was willing to give it. Competitive Grammy Awards Nat was nominated for between 1959 and 1964 went to Henry Mancini 1959, Bob Newhart 1961, Frank Sinatra 1959, 1962, Tony Bennett 1962, Jack Jones 1964, all white, all male, some with lasting legacies, some less remembered today. But in those years when the awards were given, they were chosen over Nat King Cole. Not because of sales, not because of cultural impact, not because of musical excellence, because of industry bias that couldn't be acknowledged but could be documented through patterns of who won and who didn't. The Recording Academy has never addressed this pattern, never acknowledged that early Grammy Awards reflected racial bias in winner selection, never apologized for passing over black artists who deserved recognition. They just kept giving awards, and eventually, when enough time passed, they gave Lifetime Achievement Awards to some of the artists they'd overlooked, making history. Without acknowledging they'd failed to recognize it when it was present. Nat King Cole's Grammy record: 5 competitive nominations while alive, 0 wins, 1 Lifetime Achievement Award 25 years after death. That record tells a story about what was valued in the recording industry, about who was seen as deserving recognition, about the difference between acknowledgement and validation. Nominations say, "We see you. We can't ignore you. You're too successful." The losses say, "But we're giving the award to someone else." The posthumous Lifetime Achievement Award says, "Now that you're gone, we can safely honor you." None of it says you were equal to your white contemporaries and deserved the same recognition they received. That's what Nat deserved while alive: competitive Grammy Awards for work that was nominated and worthy. Recognition from industry peers that validated his excellence alongside white artists. He didn't get it, got nominations instead, got acknowledgement without awards, got posthumous honor without living recognition. The pattern extended beyond Nat. Ella Fitzgerald was nominated 13 times before her first win. Billie Holiday never won a competitive Grammy during her lifetime. Duke Ellington was repeatedly passed over. The Recording Academy would eventually recognize these artists. Lifetime Achievement Awards, posthumous honors, Hall of Fame inductions. But that recognition came after careers, after lives, after the moments when Grammy Awards would have meant professional validation. Honoring dead legends is easier than validating living competitors. Dead legends are safely historical. Living competitors threaten hierarchies. The Recording Academy chose comfort, validating white artists competitively while nominating black artists as acknowledgement without consequence, then honoring them posthumously decades later when it was safe, historical, symbolic. Nat King Cole deserved better, deserved recognition while alive, deserved Grammy Awards for work that was nominated and worthy, deserved validation from his industry that matched his commercial success and cultural impact. He got nominations, he got posthumous honor. He didn't get equality in competitive recognition during his career. That's the story the Grammy record tells. 5 nominations, 0 wins while alive, 1 Lifetime Achievement Award a quarter century after death. Numbers that document bias even when bias isn't acknowledged. Nat King Cole never held a Grammy Award during his lifetime, never gave an acceptance speech, never experienced that industry validation. He experienced nomination. He experienced loss to white artists. He experienced the pattern of acknowledgement without recognition. Then he died, and 25 years later, when it was safe and symbolic and cost nothing, the Recording Academy gave him a Lifetime Achievement Award. Natalie accepted it on his behalf because he couldn't. Because he was gone, because the recognition came too late. That's not about 1959 or 1964 or 1990. That's about how recognition works, who gets validated when, what barriers exist even for acknowledged excellence. Nat King Cole was nominated for Grammy Awards 5 times while alive, lost every competitive category to white artists, won his first Grammy 25 years after his death. Those are facts, documented, undeniable. What they mean about the Recording Academy, about industry bias, about the difference between nomination and validation, that's the question worth asking. And the answer is in the pattern. 5 nominations, 0 wins, posthumous honor when it was too late to matter. That's Nat King Cole's Grammy story. Not the story he deserved, but the story he got. The comparison with Grammy winners is striking. Jack Jones, 1964, had a successful career but didn't create standards or influence generations. Bob Newhart's comedy album, 1961, was groundbreaking for comedy but more significant than Nat's musical work. Tony Bennett, 1962, became a legend, but Nat already was one. Both deserved recognition, only one won. The Recording Academy valued commercial success. Nat had it. Critical acclaim. Nat had it. Cultural impact. Nat's was enormous. What variable explains 5 nominations, 0 wins? The Recording Academy would deny racial bias, point to black winners in other categories. But the pattern persists. Early Grammys saw black artists win in segregated R&B or jazz categories, not mainstream awards. Nat recorded pop standards, the same American songbook as Sinatra, Bennett, and Camo, when black artists competed in the same categories as white artists. They lost disproportionately. Nominations came, wins didn't. That's not random, that's pattern suggesting systematic bias. Each Grammy had its justification, but justifications can coexist with bias. Individual decisions can be defensible while the pattern reveals something larger. 5 nominations, 5 losses to white artists, posthumous recognition 25 years later. That pattern tells the story, individual justifications obscure. The Grammy Awards continue today with efforts to address diversity, but the Recording Academy hasn't reckoned with history, hasn't acknowledged early systematic undervaluing of black artists, hasn't apologized to families of artists who deserved recognition. They've moved forward as if the past doesn't require acknowledgement, as if bias patterns are historical artifacts rather than foundation stones. Nats. Grammy experience represents larger patterns, how recognition works, who gets validated when, the difference between nomination and winning. He deserved Grammy Awards during his lifetime, competitive recognition matching his excellence. He got nominations, patterns of loss, posthumous honor decades too late. That's not one artist's bad luck, that's how awards reflected and reinforced racial hierarchies. Nat King Cole, 5 nominations, 0 competitive wins while alive, 1 posthumous Lifetime Achievement Award. Frank Sinatra, multiple Grammy wins starting in 1959. Tony Bennett, multiple Grammy wins starting in 1962. Bob Newhart, Album of the Year in 1961. The difference wasn't excellence, success, or cultural impact, it was race and the Recording Academy's willingness to nominate black artists but award white artists. That's the pattern. Nat King Cole's Grammy record documents.